You signed it. Oh, mistake. Problem is, have you secured your financing? Because you're not just signing a monthly rent, you're signing the full contract. If it's for 3-year lease, 5-year lease, you're signing the whole thing. So the due diligence piece before you open the business, start a business, or put the time and energy in the business, really, as like you will hear me keep saying over and over, the winning and losing is done up front. Deb hears me say this all the time. How you start's how you finish. And that's very true. Which leads to the piece that I'm here to talk to you about, and that's financing. What types of monies are out there in order for you to evolve your business to a viable, operating, profiting business? Now, there's a number of sources of capital that are available. First, there's yours. All the nickels and dimes and dollars that Grandma and Grandpa gave you, have you saved all those? All the money that you've made through the summers working on farms and swimming pools and everything else you've done to get through college, have you saved any of that? Then there's what I call the family piece, and that is the aunts and uncles and grandmas and those that love you so much who want to say, gee, grandson Rick, we love you so much that we're going to leave you $50,000 because we think you're a smart kid. And so then we want you to start a business. Well,
how many of you have that? Okay.
Grandma's left you guys all that bunch of money? Or?
Grandma's still alive and kicking.
Yeah. Could be an issue yet in the trust. Well, then there's associates, friends. Who say, well, I got this extra money and I can loan this to you, and you know, and you say, cool, I'll pay you back in a year. All sounds good. Then there's financial institutions, banks, who you go to and you fill out an application and they say, well, okay, let's do a personal financial statement, let's take a look at your business, we want to see a business plan, we want to see what you filed on last year's taxes. If you're a startup business, they usually say, I'll come back in a couple years after you're up and running, so you got some income tax statements to show us that you can be profitable. Banks are a very viable entity to use, but you need to be established. You need to be able to have some type of track record to put on the table. Because after all, banks take other people's monies and they deposit it, and they basically guarantee those people their money back. And some will return on their money, such as CDs or other depositories that what they call idle capital. That's capital that the banks would use to loan to you all entrepreneurs. Then there's angel investors, who are supposed to be the good guys who believe in, or gals, that believe in providing capital to you because they just love you and they love your idea. Well, one of the challenges with venture capitalists is that they want their money back, and they want a premium for that money because they figure you've exhausted all the other entities. Okay? So when you go to a venture capitalist, they're assuming that there's no bank, no family, no friends, no associates, or it's at a level that you can ascertain that type of capital. And what's the Shark, the TV show?
Shark Tank.
Shark Tanks.
They watch a little of that.
You watch a little of that? You guys see that? Get a little flavor of what's going on there. Those are ventureless capitalists will say, we got the money and you want it. Convince me how to give it to you. And then you see the shark sitting there going, boy, I could really, take this guy to cleaners because he's clueless. Great idea, but you don't know what he's doing.
They got to watch one of those.
Did you guys get to watch one of those? Okay. So, they're not necessarily evil. you know, gotta have them around. Then there's those weird anomalies like community development resources that are these nonprofit organizations that say, gee, we really believe in our communities. We believe that we should deploy capital into the community to benefit those businesses that are viable and have an impact. For example, let's take Lincoln. We have some ethnic communities here that don't go to Super Saver or some of the other traditional stores to buy their food and products. And so somebody of their background says, well, we'll open our own grocery store. So we can have kinds of products that are, you know, part of our culture. Well, they go to a bank or they go somewhere and maybe they speak English, maybe they don't. Maybe they come from a country that they don't understand the capitalistic system the way that we might. Maybe they have a belief system that says we don't believe in charging interest. As a Muslim, they don't believe in interest. So we have a problem. Because in the capitalistic system, if I loan you $10, I want 12 back. That's how it works. That way, then I can loan him 10, and then I want $14 from him. And on and on and on. But certain communities, that model doesn't work. So anomalies like community development resources says, because we're not regulated in the way that a traditional bank would be, we're able to say, okay, let's sit down and let's craft together a kind of model that would work. Simply saying, for example, well, if you borrow $1,000 and your payment's going to be, you know, $75 a month plus $10 a month interest. So your payment would be $85. That won't work because you just told them you're going to charge them interest. Now, what we say to them, if you need $1,000, our payments would be $85 a month on return. We leave out the interest conversation. So, community development resources is a flexible, nonprofit, financial, community development financial institution certified under the U.S. Treasury Department to be reactive and responsive to the needs in a community. We're a statewide organization, so we work across all types of communities, all types of business. Let's say when you start your business, you go to the bank and they say, you know, it's a great idea, but you don't have quite the track record or the assets or the collateral that we would need, therefore we'll have to decline you. But we're going to refer you to this organization because they will be able to provide you some resources in a way that we can't. So we might look at this and say, you know what? We really probably shouldn't loan you this money. But if you can bring grandma in here who would basically co-sign for you or pledge her baby grand piano for your business venture, we will reconsider. We do take some unconventional collateral sometimes. No humans, children, bad relatives or anything of that nature, neighbors or anything like that. We don't take that. But we have looked at some unconventional collateral because it is something that a person really wants back. You know, they may pledge, we had this happen one time, I don't know if I should tell this story, but I will. We had someone pledge a diamond ring. And a wedding ring. And we said, okay, well, let's get it appraised. So we took it to a jeweler. And he said, oh, Rick, nice piece of coal. What? He goes, yeah, it's not a very good diamond. You know, the problem was that he kind of alluded that this was a very valuable $10,000 diamond. In reality, it wasn't. Needless to say, that deal didn't work. But, so we'll look at a lot of different ways to help finance your business, because what we're really interested in is your business viable? Is your product and service something that would be able to sell, maintain, and sustain itself through duration of what we call your startup phase? Now, startup phases have been described in a lot of ways: 1 to 2 years, 1 to 3 years, 1 to 7 years. My experience has been in really to cement your business viable and know that you're probably going to be around for the duration. You know, you're talking 7 years. Because as with anything, once you go into it, there's always a learning curve. And every year you're going to learn something different than you knew the year before about your business. For example, I'll just hit a quick topic that Deb and I love to talk about all the time: marketing. Everyone says marketing. Well, I think sometimes marketing, you know, depends on the business, depends on what it is, but sometimes you're a little overblown. Marketing, you have to be very careful, because you can spend a lot of money and not get any return. Because whatever you do in that business, you want what we call ROI, and that is return on investment. You put money out, you got to have money coming back. Period. Or your business is in trouble. Certain businesses have to be marketed. There's no other way to get the word out. Now, the marketing paradigm, I think, is being changed today with technology. There's so many ways. And how many of you have seen all these businesses all of a sudden pop up on the internet or YouTube, and you're going, wow. This guy's making $10 million, and he spent a half an hour on YouTube. You know, and boom, took off. Well, it doesn't happen all the time. A lot of times you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on flyers and cards and mailings and promotions and advertising, and it never gets anywhere. Then all of a sudden, some weird thing happens that your product's on YouTube and everybody loves it. But you spent $40,000 a year before for marketing and got very little return. So marketing is something that you really have to understand how that's really going to give you a return on your money. Because all money ain't good money. And just because you think it is a good idea or a good product doesn't necessarily mean that it is. So when you're asking for money from these various types of sources, the question that you're going to hear from us is, how do you know that this is a viable business that's going to make a profit? Especially if you're a startup. You cannot empirically validate that. You do projections. You say, I hope, I pray, I believe, I know, you know, and I go, whoa, 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 we ain't church, okay? We're talking a viable business. Prove that it can be viable, that it can sustain, that it can make a profit. And so, hypothetically, let's say one of you decided that, hey, you wanted to do a bracelet. University of Nebraska, whatever. That is, everyone seems to want to wear one. Well, you say, well, if I just make 10,000 of them, everybody will buy one. No. So you hold a session, maybe a class like this. You introduce your product and say, what do you all think? You survey it. You get statistical information. You say, well, I did some research, and I did some studies with, you know, various groups of students, you know, in the union, you know, hanging out over in the theater hall, whatever it may be, and I've got a 90% response that everybody said they would buy this. Especially when you're a startup, that's the kind of information that has to be validated, proven. Then you lay that out on a financial projection sheet, financial statements showing, I'm gonna do 10,000 of these. It's gonna cost me, you know, $1 a piece. I'm gonna sell them for $5, and I'm gonna make a profit of about $30,000 after I pay my cost of material and everything else. And, you know, that's kind of like going into a room you've never been in before and it's dark and you're trying to find a light switch. Sometimes you'll get lucky and it'll be right there. A lot of times it won't be. So when you're dealing with the sources of financing that you're looking for, there's going to be different levels of inquiries of in-depthness that they're going to want to need. Let's take an angel investor, for example. And they want 15% return annually on their money. And they want 51% of management control of the limited liability corporation. Whoa, that sounds like you just went to work for somebody, right? But what they're doing is they're mitigating their losses. Because if they get down the road and they realize that you really don't know what you're doing, they're protecting their money and their investment. And they are going to make sure that they get their money back. So they're going to require a lot more in-depthness of your business plan, of your proposal, particularly your management, experience. And one of the things they're really going to want to know is, how are you going to handle adversity? Because part of owning and operating and financing a business is that not everything is going to go wonderful. It's like anything else. What is your game plan when it goes bad? You know, do you have a little nest egg back here to help cover expenses that you underprojected, that accelerated? Imagine if you had a delivery service that you started a year ago, and you're delivering, let's say you're running errands for people. You know, you're going to the grocery store and you're picking up stuff, and you charge them $15 an errand to do that. Now, with the price of gas, where's your profit at now? So now you might just be doing it and not making any money. And that's why financing people always are going to ask you, what is your contingency plan? What is your plan for the unforeseeable? Because those things are going to happen. It's like life. You know? Nothing is ever going to happen A, B, C, D, E, F, G so perfectly. There's going to be something that happens, and so you always want a financial contingency plan on how are you going to get through the tough period that happens. At every level of financing is going to ask you that. Now, I handed you a little cheat sheet here, just quickly on some of the products that we do. I'm going to break down some of these products and explain to you how these really are incorporated into working into a business. Okay? As you see there, it says our range is from $1,000 to $100,000, and that's for financing what we call small businesses. Now, the first one there is the $1,000 to $5,000 or $50,000, what they call a SBA microloan. Okay? Microloan is capital that's designed for startup businesses and businesses who haven't established credit with a traditional financial institution such as a bank. And so they come to us and they say, got a great idea, I've been making these cupcakes, all my neighbors love them, I made $5,000 last year just out of my own home, I haven't really taken this retail, but I went around and I took that $5,000 I made and I bought all the equipment I would need to open a retail place. So that's my equity, that's my buy-in, that's what I'm bringing to the table. Well, that right there tells me a lot of things. Tells me, one, they have thought this business through. They knew instead of going and buying and spending that $5,000 on a cruise, that they wanted to maximize that money, go to an auction, buy the equipment that somebody else didn't think about when they started the business and had to liquidate. So now that equipment is on sale for 20 cents on the dollar. So they've acquired all this equipment valued at $50,000, and they bought it for $5,000. They're a little ahead of the game. They say, now, what I need is $10,000 in order for me to pay a couple months' rent and to order some product so I can get to work. Okay, that's great. How are you going to market that? Well, I've got word of mouth and I'm doing it on a low budget. How many of you heard of guerrilla marketing? Heard that term? Okay.
We haven't got there yet.
Huh? Oh, am I a little ahead of the curve?
You're ahead of the curve.
Okay.
I'm
I'll
glad you mentioned it.
I'm not allowed to teach you this, but it's just a, literally, it means what it says. Guerrilla marketing is finding a way to do it and really muscling your way through marketing without spending a bunch of money for someone else to do it. You have to be innovative and creative and find new ways to do it. So, let's say that this person decided that what they would do is that they would donate a bunch of their cupcakes to a health clinic at the hospital, and they'd be gluten-free. Oh, now all of a sudden, you just hit a base of about 1,500 people, and how much did it cost you to bake those cupcakes? That's guerrilla marketing. They spent maybe $500 in ingredients and time to do what it would have taken them $5,000, $10,000 to hire the market. So this is the kind of thing we look at from the SBA micro, because this is a really flexible financial product that we're certified to be an intermediary through the SBA to provide a loan to a small business person like that. We can do the loan up to 6 years, which is pretty unconventional, because most traditional banks like to do 3 on a startup. We have a rate that's usually competitive with the commercial rate, because traditional financial institutions, they make their money off how much they charge you for interest. That's how they profit. As a nonprofit, we're afforded some operating capital through the activities that we do, meaning that we get a grant back from the SBA so that we can stabilize our interest rates for you. Okay? So that's a product that is a little more conducive to a new startup kind of business. And as it says here, we can do up to $50,000. And Deb and them around the office are hearing me talk about this. I want to share with you, I just got off the phone with Doris, and I just got an email that a gentleman, let me pull his name up here, Chris Hearn with Mercantile Capital Corporation is writing an article, and he's been on MSBN and all this, but he's writing a book. And the book is how we ought to be providing capital to help businesses buy the buildings that they're going to be in instead of renting. See, I'm not all crazy. This has been I've been on my little drum roll here lately about this, because I'm seeing this is an area that's really hurting a lot of businesses. Because when you're paying rent, you're losing equity. It's like renting a house. You're not gaining anything. So as a business, when you're paying lease payments or rent to a property owner, you're not getting anything. And if you come in, if it's a raw room, and you go, oh, well, I want lights here, and I want this over here, and this wall has to be painted, and I want curtains here, and I want all this. And the landlord's going, sure, yeah, looks good, yeah, fine. Because he's gonna keep all that. You just fixed up this wonderful building. So, the $50,000 is a lot of money. But in today's world and economy, I don't think it's enough money to really help a business be viable and sustain itself. I think we should increase that up to $100,000 so maybe we can help you buy your building. Two ways that will benefit. We'll have collateral, adequate collateral of a building as opposed to your promise. Plus the fact that it increases your cash flow and gives you a better opportunity to keep your business viable. Because debt service is usually what kills a business. You borrow this money, you got debt, you owe vendors, and if only so much sales comes in, how do you pay? Okay? So that's what a microloan, in a quick nutshell, is designed to do, is to help you get that operation capital, to get that what I call expendable capital to run your business that another traditional financial institution probably wouldn't do. Okay? We have small business loans, and we run that through what we call an equity equivalent investment. It's the same thing. It's just designed as a small business community loan. Same thing with the community development loans. That's the same pot of money. And that money comes from, we borrow money from the banks to loan you. The only difference is, when you're sitting there with the banker and he says, okay, we want 9%. Wow, that's not high. Well, you're a big risk. But we go in and we say to the bank, we want you to provide us an equity equivalent investment at 2%. And then we're going to loan that money out to this business at 7%. And we think that we can make a spread on that and we can survive. Because we don't get bonuses at the end of the year and new suits and, new cars and, all that kind of stuff, and big pins, whatever. So that's how we negotiate the community development loans, directly with the bank. And we have some major players, Wells, U.S. Bank, Pinnacle Bank, got our participants in that. Okay? So that's called private equity equivalent investment, EQ2s. While I'm on community development loans, I want to stop because you all know your instructor here is infamous, right? She also is a program manager for a loan fund called the Alice Integrity Loan Fund, which is truly an innovative, creative financial tool and resource that's being provided, particularly to women and minorities. And the most important feature of that is what?
I'm supposed to answer?
I'm messing with it. No collateral.
Yeah.
That's really unprecedented. I mean, even grandma wants a promise from you, right? I mean, something, But Alice, who we say is our partner in crime on this deal, is not here, but this was really unprecedented for Alice Denton to provide this Alice Integrity Loan Fund because she's a banker. And all our banker friends said, you have lost your mind. What are you doing? But if you know Alice, she is truly an amazing, unique woman who truly wants to help and make a difference because she believes in entrepreneurship and loves business people. And there's some criteria that you have to meet as far as the business plan and getting some counseling and technical assistance, that kind of stuff. But where can you get $5,000 on collateral? So this is a program that many are looking at, trying to figure out how to model it, how to duplicate this. And we've had some very interesting evolution with this product. And, it's pretty elementary right now, and it's gonna evolve, so, there are a number of ways that capital can be provided. And we call that community development. Because those funds are deployed into a community business and are there to help establish community businesses. Okay? Then we have what we call the SBA 504 loans. These are fixed rate term loans for 20 years. Owner, equipment, everything must be at least 51% owner occupied. And you must be established for 2 years and be a profitable business. Now, here's the very unique thing about this. This allows you to buy your land and building. But it also, if you take a 20-year loan, you take a loan and spread it out over 20 years, now all of a sudden, where, let's say your debt service was $15,000 a month on leasing and all this type of stuff, now all of a sudden, you own this building and your payment is $8,750 a month. Wow. You just picked up about $7,000 cash a month to operate your business. And that's what we call providing cash flow. That's the difference in a term loan for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years than an SBA 504 loan. The minimum amount of that has to be about $250,000. It's obviously for a little bit bigger businesses. But the idea of this is to stabilize existing businesses so that they can continue to operate and make a profit. Now, I know you probably have more of a life than I do, but I sit and watch a lot of times financial news because that's the business I'm in. So I have to know what is and what is not. With this product right now, we have a refinance tool going on, and this is literally what is saving the businesses in America. Because right now, banks are not deploying a lot of money on the street to businesses, but this 504 refinance product is just going like gangbusters. Because every viable business over 2 years that is profitable and is looking down the road is running to their banker and saying, I want to convert all my debt to a 504 loan. Because a conventional commercial loan with the bank is 7 years. So you do the cash flow projection for 13 more years. All of a sudden, a marginal business that was questionable whether it was going to survive, now all of a sudden, you know, the heavens have opened up. Now they got liquidity. Now they got money. And they're viable and they can operate. And we got certified May 28, 2010. We've been working on deals since then. We're just in the process of closing some of our first loans. It's a very complicated financial tool. It takes a stack of paper about this big. But the end result is that that business knows it's going to be able to survive. And our portfolio, about $1.5 million a year. With this 504 program, our portfolio is about $35 million right now. So as an organization, we're just like a business too, so we're having growth challenges. You know, how do we, get this thing up and running? We had expense that it was going to take 2 years before profitability was coming back. So we had to go borrow money. We have legal fees. We had to have a software program just to run this thing that was $6,000. So as a program, as a business, we had to look at it, spread it out over a number of years and say, okay, here's how we're going to do this. I don't think this is wood, but I'm going to knock on it. And say, we're blessed that it's working. But it took a lot of head scratching to get to that point. We just didn't do it because it sounded good. We had to really lay out a plan to make it viable. And so that's another product in this economy today. How many have heard the comments going around now that all the jobs that were shipped overseas to China are starting to come back? You guys hearing about that a little bit? Okay, well, like anybody, let's say in China you were working for $10 a month. And all of a sudden, you know, you're making iPhones. And now you're making $50 a month. Now you're affording some consumer products that you've never experienced before. So now China and China's workers are saying, wait a minute, this is kind of good. I want to drive an SUV too. I want a flat screen TV, I want running water, I want all these things now. But I don't want to work. So now all these companies that have built their model off paying these workers $50 a month, now they got a worker that says, I want $5,000 a month. Now the companies aren't profitable. And they're going, we can go back to America and do this. So they're coming back. So there's a lot of factors in how a business is financed, the term it's financed, the rate it's financed, and the conditions. Yes.
I was looking at that. You got
How much?
5
5 minutes? Okay, I'll get to the end here. And then there's the nonprofit loans, which is another unique thing that we can do because we're an unconventional financial institution. We had a foundation come to us and say, we know a lot of nonprofits, you know, the YWCA, the Big Brothers, the Big Sisters, you know, different programs around the country or around Lincoln are facing challenges. They're having trouble operating because of the good nature of the people who gave money to foundations to support these programs. Now those funds aren't there. So we had a visionary foundation who came to us and said, Rick, how do we handle that? I said, gee, why don't we do a loan for them? But let's do it at 0%. So what they borrow is what they pay back. Let's find out what their situation is and maybe let's draw some terms up that they can live with. Maybe they have a line of credit with the financial institution that they're paying 5% to operate this nonprofit, and if we lend them the money at 0%, oh, they can keep that employee they were about to lay off. So this is a very powerful financial tool that's operating in Lincoln right now. And we started with a level of capital that everyone thought, oh, that'd be enough. And I kept going, not enough, we need to double. And they're going, no, just do this. We're out of money. We're out of money. So that's the way that we help finance with nonprofit organizations. But the biggest piece behind any money, how many heard the adage, the fool and his money can soon be departed? If you don't have the right training and technical assistance with that money, you can be a millionaire today and go tomorrow. Seen it. Unbelievable, but it happens. So when you're thinking about financial resources for your business, remember, preempt any issues that could cause your business trouble. And that means really think through your idea. Make sure that you know what color is on the walls, where the chairs are sitting, what lamp is there, where the couch is sitting, where your production areas are, how many people are coming through, what do they look like, what do they drive, how much do they spend, you know, how often do they come through, what are your hours. I mean, you have to think all this through before you risk going in and saying, I want to borrow money, or I want to access some capital to open a business. Because these are the challenges that an entrepreneur has to face. The reality of it is that if you love fixing and working on bicycles, You open a bicycle shop, you're probably not going to be fixing too many bicycles. You're going to be managing that business and keeping that door open and seeing and hiring others to fix those bikes. And that becomes your passion, that you're open and viable and providing an opportunity for people to ride bikes. So financing is probably the most important piece of any business, whether it's your own money or you're using other people's money. If that formula and that business model doesn't work, you've got a real avalanche of a problem.
And on that light note, do you have any questions?